We are rolling. All right, these things right here are called algebraic expressions. Write that down. Algebraic sounds real fancy. Okay, algebraic expressions. All right. Now, what is an algebraic expression? Well, I'm glad you asked. Watch. 3x plus, let's say, 5y. All right, that right there is an example. It's one example of an algebraic expression. Notice, I didn't say algebraic equation, did I? All right, a lot of times you say that. You talk about solving equations in Algebra 1, right? You did that a million times, didn't you? Last year in Algebra 1, solve this equation for x. Yes? No? Yeah. Yeah, okay, just making sure you're with me. But on this one, it doesn't say algebraic equation, it says algebraic expression. Why is this not an equation right now? What do you think, Elizabeth? Right, doesn't have an equal sign, okay? It doesn't have an equal sign. It's just what this is equal to. Now, what if I gave you this and I said, okay, solve it? Why not? Yeah, it's already solved. There's nothing you can do. I mean, you don't, because why? Why can't I do something with that 3 right there? You don't know what x is, right? She said it, okay? You don't know what x is, and you don't know what y is. What? Okay, so you don't know what those are, so you can't do anything with it. What if you did know what x was equal to? Then what would you do with that 3 and that x? Multiply them together. What if you knew what y was equal to? Multiply it by 5. And then you would get this answer and do what to it? Add them together, okay? So let's just make something up. Here's what they're going to say. They're going to use this phrase, evaluate. Do you remember seeing that stuff in Algebra 1? Yeah. So it'll say, we'll just stick with the same one. I just made this one up. Evaluate this, and then it'll say if x is equal to something and y is equal to something. Since we're just making this problem up, just give me something fairly easy that x is 2 and what? No, something easy. Give me 1's too easy. 6? All right, we'll go 6. All right, they sound good. So now, if we're going to figure out what this is, then we just put them in. Now watch what I do. I'm very careful. This is 3 what? Times the x, times the 2. So watch what I do. Wherever I see a variable, I'm going to put a blank parentheses. All right? I'm not even going to put the number in just yet. Then I put 5 times whatever y is. See what I did? So I left blank parentheses wherever the variables were, and now I can just plug in those numbers. Okay, plug and chug is what I say. All right, so take, what are we putting in here? We're putting a 2 in here, and what are we putting in here? 6 right there. Figure out this. 6 plus what? 30, and my answer? 36. Okay, easy as that. Now look, do you see what I just did? This is as far as turning in your homework, and this is how you should do your homework. You should write the problem down. See what I did? I did it for you. You do it for me. You got that? So you write the problem down, and then you show all your steps. I don't care if you could have just done this in your head. I don't want to see just an answer down. I don't want to see, okay, this is number 7 on my problem, and my answer is 36. Okay, now number 8. Nope, don't want that. You follow? I want to see you write the problem down. I want to see the steps. I want to see you putting the numbers in. I want to see what this is equal to. I want to see what this is equal to. Then you add them up and you get your answer. I circled my answer. Some people like to put it in a box. Some people just like to underline it. Whatever makes it stand out a little bit. Okay, I prefer circle, but you can do it anyway. Make sense? Yes.
Instead of like writing evaluate stuff, can we just write like x equals y equals?
If you don't want to write evaluate, I could deal with that. But look, I definitely want this right here. Okay? Definitely write that stuff down. All right? No doubt about it. And then all this stuff, of course, too. You can get away with not putting evaluate. I don't really care about that. But this stuff right here, you should write down.
So we need to rewrite the question.
Yep. I want you to rewrite the question. Okay? Because you don't see the question on your paper, right? You're taking a look. Remember, you're going to have a book pretty soon. So I wanted you to take the problem from the book and write it on your paper. Because if you go back, if you're using that to study for a test or something, and all you see is a whole bunch of answers, you'll have no clue what you were doing, right? You see the problem, you see the steps, you see the answer. All right? That's something that I'm going to be very, very picky about. And you can tell that I've been picky about some things already. Right, Mikhail? All right? Are you paying attention up here? Good. So, what's that, Michaela? right? That's your name, right? Okay, I did get it right. I was like, oh, did I get your name wrong? I got it right. All right, so enough of that. Let's do one that's a little bit more challenging. All right, write this one down. This one's straight from the book. Tell you what, I'm going to do. There's two examples on this one. If you want to see the first example, you can go to the other class on YouTube, okay? And because there's two CP classes I teach, so I'm going to do another example I didn't do in the other class. All right. So here it is. We're going to evaluate. I'm going to write it down. Evaluate -3, then a parentheses, then k squared plus 2n. Alright, there he goes. Now, if that's all I told you, you wouldn't be able to do anything with that. So you got to know what those letters are. So here they are. So k is -2, n is -4, and p is 5. You guys writing this down, right? There's no p because in the other example there's a p. Alright, so don't worry about it. That's alright. If there's no p here, who cares, right? Alright, we don't need to freak out about it. Alright, it's in another example, alright, using these letters right here, there's a P in the other example. I just didn't do that example, alright? So, we're alright. Everybody okay?
Yes,
Boy, you guys got all excited about that, didn't you? Because there's no P in there. Alright, here we go. Let's do this. First of all, this -3, what's that -3 doing to everything in the parentheses? It's distributing or it's multiplying, right? But I'm not going to distribute it through. Technically, you could. We're not going to do that right now with this kind of problem. What we're going to do is we're going to put all the stuff inside of here. Now, the k, remember what I do? Wherever there's a variable, I put a parentheses. And what are we doing to that parentheses? We're going to square it. Plus 2 times n, and then I close that big parentheses. That's what I'm going to do right off the bat. It looks exactly like this, but except for the, instead of having a variable, what did I put? I just put a blank parentheses. Everybody with me on that? Now I can chuck stuff into that parentheses. So what do I put into this parentheses? A -2. Okay, it's a -2. And what do I put in for this parentheses right there? The n. Put a -4. Alright? So now I can actually start working this thing out. Look, the very last thing I'm going to do is multiply by this -3. Do you remember back in Algebra 1 you learned, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally? Okay, P-E, right? Yeah, M-D-A-S. And that's just a little acronym to remember. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. But those letters really stand for that? Not really. It's just an easy way to remember. What does the P stand for? Parentheses, then what? Exponents, talk. Okay, good. Some are faster than others. All right, so parentheses first. We do what's in the parentheses first. So here's this big old parentheses right here. We got to do all this stuff before we multiply by this -3. You with me? Now, inside the parentheses is a exponent, right? So we do the exponents, and then there's also multiplication, and then there's also addition. There's a lot of stuff we got to do in that parentheses before we multiply by that -3. That's the last thing we do. So I don't forget about it. I keep it out there. All right? Don't try to skip steps and throw it away. People do that. So I'll get to it at the end. No, write it down in every single step. Let's do this part right here. Let's change colors just to highlight it a little bit. So let's do that right there first. So what's that going to be? Is it 4 or is it -4? That's right. It is a 4. Okay, it's a positive 4. I was just checking to see. A lot of people get confused about this. That -2 is in parentheses. You're squaring a -2. So it's -2 times -2, which is what? Positive 4. Everybody got that? People look at this and they'll say, oh, that's a negative and that's 2 squared, so that's -4. No, you're squaring the negative as well. You're squaring the negative and you're squaring the 2. Got it? -2 times -2 is positive 4. So that goes right there. Yep.
If you have a negative and you're squaring it, or if you're doing anything with the exponent, does that mean if it's like always even, is it going to be positive?
Yeah, so if this exponent's even and this is in parentheses, then it's always going to be positive, correct? Right? Because you're always pairing them up, right? Even number of exponents means you're always pairing them up. Every time you have a pair of negative, that's always going to be positive. Make sense? Okay. If I have odd, that means I got one left over, right? And that one left over means it's going to be negative. You got it? All right, let's keep going. What's this? Well, I should have done that in red, but that's okay. What's that going to be? Right, negative 8 plus. You could write plus negative 8, or to make it a little easier, you could just say minus 8, couldn't you? Is that all right? Okay, so you could put plus negative 8 if that helps you, or you can just put minus 8. That simplified that stuff pretty nice, didn't it? Let's keep going. Remember we said the last thing we're going to do is this multiplication? So let's do what's inside this parentheses. What's 4 minus 8? It's negative 4. Good. What's negative 3 times negative 4? It's positive 12, and there you go. Look what I did. I wrote down the problem, showed all my steps, wrote my answer, and circled it. That's the way you should do your homework in here. Everybody got that? All right. Now this is more algebra kind of stuff. Eventually, next week we'll be getting into some real geometry, and you'll see that the real geometry sometimes is a little bit different, and you're not always going to be able to show all these steps. Sometimes they're going to say, what point is the midpoint? You look at it and you say, oh, point A, and that's all you do. Write down point A. There's no work to show. But there are problems, though, even in geometry, where you're going to have to show some steps and do some algebra, and that's what I want you to do. You got it? All right. Hope I've said that enough because I want you to understand that. All right. Let's stop this and we'll start another one.